Last night's disappointing draw against Poland has given the England football team the one extra point needed to guarantee it a place in the World Cup finals in Italy next summer. But now all attention will be focused not on the team's chances, but the prospect of hordes of soccer hooligans draped in the England colours wreaking havoc abroad yet again. According to newspaper reports, after our last World Cup qualifier against Sweden, the level of hooliganism was so disgraceful, even Mrs. Thatcher was expressing concern over whether England should even be allowed to play in the championships. England fans appeared to have behaved themselves in Poland, but was the Battle of Stockholm last month as serious as was portrayed? Was it really our night of shame?
Last month, England achieved its traditional 0-0 draw in their World Cup qualifying game against Sweden in Stockholm, but it was events off the field which made the headlines. It was the same awful story all over again, horribly behaved football hooligans dragging the Union Jack through the mud. The Stockholm police were left with the job of dealing with the supporters on the night. They felt as though they had done a pretty good job. Trouble had briefly erupted in the lead-up to the game, but it was nipped in the bud by swift police action. A potentially ugly situation, but not a catastrophe. When senior officers picked up the English newspapers the following morning, they read the frenzied shock-horror coverage of the previous night's events with the incredulity normally associated with reports of flying saucers. Jan Varnhal is Stockholm's Assistant Commissioner of Police. He was one of the team with the task of policing the match. He flew to London to explain just exactly what had happened to England's national honour. The thing that surprised him the most were the reports of an emergency radio broadcast to the people of Stockholm.
Chief Superintendent Kurt Nielsen said in a broadcast, "It is not safe to be on the streets because of the English. When these people get going, there is always trouble and chaos."
It sounds like science fiction to me. Actually, I have read the transcript from that particular radio program, and he was asked, is it safe to go out in the streets? And he said, for certain.
At least 2,000 officers, some carrying bullwhips, were deployed as part of the country's biggest ever peacetime force. The baying packs were being kept apart by more than 2,000 Swedish riot police.
2,000? I wish we had so many police officers to sign for that. Actually, it was 550.
Battle as stores looted.
At a large department store, Arlen's, the mob grabbed racks of clothing, punching and kicking bystanders.
We spoke to Bo Linder, the manager of the Arlen store. He told us that at about 5:30, a group of English fans had passed by the store, but not one of them had even attempted to go inside. Linder told us that the reports in the English papers were
unqualified bull.
The Yobs looted other shops in the smart shopping precincts, filling their pockets with jewellery and other valuables.
The looting of the jewelry store, it sounds like a book title, but I'm a little concerned. Well, at least I haven't it among the reports I've been given. I haven't heard about it.
Swedish police said last night they had arrested 82 Britons.
145 English football supporters arrested during violent clashes.
500 England fans held in riot roundup.
Some papers fail to mention the fact that more Swedes than English fans were picked up by the police. Sweden's Kvällposten got it right.
The Stockholm police's toughest match ended 104-102 to Sweden. These are the figures for the number of detained fans, and the Swedes were the worst.
There is a legal complexity here which few British journalists understood. Swedish law on arrests is different to English law. There is a cooling-off clause in Sweden's Police Act, under which people can be detained for 6 hours without being charged. So under Swedish law, no British fan was arrested that night. Having got Swedish law wrong on the first day, the British newspapers the day after got it completely wrong.
Animals set free by soft-in-the-head Swedes.
Obviously, the one who wrote that had no idea whatsoever about Swedish laws and what they are about.
In general, the Swedish papers gave a more balanced account of the Troubles. The Expression newspaper reported Police Chief Kurt Nielsen as saying,
A lot has been said about the English fans, but I think the Swedes were just as bad, if not worse. Many of the Englishmen were provoked. People spat at them.
And Dagens Nyheter quoted Police Commissioner Högland, the man in charge of policing the stadium.
The Englishmen behaved in an exemplary manner. The problems we had were in fact with the Swedes.
We asked 9 of the British journalists to explain their stories. The only one who was able to appear was The Guardian's Owen Bowcott. He was sent to Stockholm to follow the English supporters. He thinks the criticisms of his fellow journalists are unfair, given the reporting pressures on the night. Like all reporters, Bowcott had to take a decision about the best place to be at any particular time. He spent the run-up to the game at the England team's hotel in the centre of Stockholm. Then just before kick-off, he made his way 5 miles across the city to the Rosunda Stadium at Solna. He arrived to find the atmosphere calm, with most supporters peacefully making their way into the ground. But almost immediately, news came in that trouble had erupted in the city centre.
I was at the stadium waiting for the game to commence, where the largest number of English fans were, and the trouble occurred late on in the centre of town, 5 miles away. It was getting close to deadlines. I had to file something soon. I didn't have time immediately to go back into town. It was a difficult situation to be in.
The British press pack were in a fix. It was too late to get a first-hand look at the disturbance, so they had to rely on police accounts of what was going on.
The police reports of what happened were slightly panicky, and it was very difficult and confusing sorting out what had happened. The police press office in Stockholm said that the store had been looted, and they repeated this during the course of the evening, throughout the evening. The police press officer in Stockholm, whom I went to see early next morning, told me that the Island store had been looted. I had been into that store in the morning, and all the ladies on the counter, all the security guards said it had not been. But still, 18, 20 hours after it had allegedly been looted, the Swedish police were maintaining that had gone on.
British football fans aren't all angels, but nor are they demons at every single game England plays. Difficult as the journalist's job was, one can't help but suspect that for some of the British press corps, the match was always going to be a night of shame. It makes for better copy.